Hello and welcome to the Darby Creek Diaries. I'm Gail Thompson and today we're going to be playing with bubbles. I first saw this on a Tim Holtz live and I knew that I had to have it. And I'm also going to make a shaker card, but I wanted to show you the features of the Stampers Anonymous. It's called a stamp set, but basically it's just one big texture stamp. And it's red rubber, and nothing ever will stamp as good as red rubber. And there's all kinds of detail on this, and it can be used for a lot of things. And it comes with its own stamping plate, which is really convenient. It has a static stick, and you just will press it up there. I'm just going to show you real quick the detail, and then we'll get into our card. And at the end, I have some other ways to use the stamp, so you're going to want to stick around for that. And I also have a special video having to do with Florida that you will love. It is so cute. Look at the detail on this. It's just amazing. Now we're going to go into the card that I showed at the beginning. I'm just using clear ink, and you're not going to really be able to see much, but I'm just going to put a little bit of Versamark. It's a sticky ink, and we're going to heat emboss this just in clear since the paper is white. I'm using a brayer so I make sure I can get even coverage. And now we're just going to add the embossing powder, which of course is always my favorite part. Unfortunately with this it doesn't have much of an effect because you really can't see it yet, but it will later. Be generous when you dump it on because, as you can see, if you do it over a sheet of paper, you can plop it right back into the jar, and I always do that immediately or it will find itself all over the place. And I've dumped more than one in my life. So I'm heat setting this. It's kind of hard to see. You're going to be able to tell when it gets glossy. You really need to be careful because if you overheat it, it'll just melt right into the paper. But this is perfect. I'm just going to blend, and this is not fancy at all. Believe me, I'm not sure what paper I used, but it just hang in there with me. But so far, so good. It looks beautiful with, I believe that's tumbled glass. And now I'm going to go to Salvage Patina, which is one of my favorite colors. I just love it, and I use it quite often. I just wanted to this is supposed to be the shore, the water, and I wanted to give it some extra oomph. And I'm wiping off the excess that's laying on top of the embossing area because it is a resist. Now this is where it just looks like a mess. This is Distress ink, which is different than the oxide. The oxides blend like butter. The inks, not so much, especially for me and not on apparently this cardstock, which I cannot I just have a pile of cardstock and sometimes it gets mixed up. But we keep hacking at this, and at the end of the day, it looks fine. I'm just going to blend a little bit, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing it because I wasn't seeing much improvement. So we'll just go on to the next part. I'm going to spray just some mist over the whole background and dab it up. That's one of the fun things with Distress you can do. And that sprayer, if you just do it, you press it halfway, you'll get some bigger blops. And I did it twice just to get a little more effect there to kind of cover up that what's supposed to be sand. Now I wanted a little bit of frothing shore, and I thought this would be good. So I got out white pigment ink and put the white embossing powder on, and they kind of blend. I try to blend a little bit here and there. But I mean, I don't like what it looks like. It's more than froth. It's flat out looks weird. So I'm adding more ink to kind of fade it out, and I'm still not loving it, but I'm going to see if I can't see. I'm trying to make it a little wider and just like a blop. So here we go. I Still, I'm trying to figure out maybe if I frame this one way or another that I can improve it. Still not loving it. But I decided I'm going to add some sand embossing powder, and that'll kind of migrate over the edge. You want to shake this up, and you need to be very careful when you're heating it, because if you heat it too closely, those bigger chunks tend to just fly off. And now I'm taking a little brush, and instead of having such a harsh edge, I'm trying to, you know, soften it up a little bit. And we'll see how successful that is in a second. I'm thinking it's going to look better to kind of cover up the whole thing, so I heat set this, and then I just kind of put some random ink on there, and I re-embossed the bottom. Now I'm trying to figure out, I know I don't like the thing as a whole, so hang with me. I decide to kind of chop it up a little bit. Still haven't really decided what angle it should be, but you know, hang with me. I didn't have a real plan. I generally don't. Things normally take a life of their own. I've got Spellbinders fluted oval dies, and I decided that I would make a frame for this and keep those leftover pieces because they have a nice rim around them. Now I'm going to just die cut a piece of acetate. This one happens to be heat resistant, but I wound up not needing that. And then we'll set that aside. I decided to make this also an A5 card, which is bigger than I usually do, which makes it 7 by 10¼ inches. And I wound up, you know, wanting to mark that off on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper because it isn't something I do a lot. Of course, later on I changed my mind, and the card will wind up being white. But here's how I fold a card base. I just tuck it in on my mat at the bottom because I know that that's going to be even. And I run my bone folder across the top. This is very heavy paper, so it takes a little bit of talking to before you get it exactly right. And I decided to use a little scrap of that to put hello there, because I hadn't decided really what theme this card was going to be other than it was going to be a shaker card. So here I've already chopped down the card base into just half, and I'm using a corner rounder to round out the corners, and I don't know why I stick my finger up like that. I don't know. It's so funny. But anyhow, I'm putting on Versamark generously on this stamp because I wanted the background to have something going on. It was just too plain. And I have my brayer out to help that plate get an even coverage. And then I'm just gonna take a little more and cover up the corner there. But the beauty of this is that there is no right or wrong. You can just plunk it on there and it's bubbles on bubbles. I'm gonna glue our scene to the little backer there, and I eyeball things most of the time. I didn't the hello, and it still wound up being a little crooked. And now I placed my first frame. I made a stack of 4, and I'm just going to load them on, making sure that everybody stays even. I'm adding a few extra bubbles and some sparkle to my hello with my Nouveau gloss pen. And it takes a second. Now I decided it's still too plain, so I have a paper distresser, and I'm just going to kind of rough up the sides a little bit just because I can. No rhyme or reason. It just, to me, it still looked, this card just had to keep morphing. And I'm sure all of us have been through that. And you don't quite know. Now I'm putting some anti-static powder on both sides of this because I never know when I pick something up if I've done it or not. And I have some real sand. And so I'm going to put some real sand and some Flower Soft in there to kind of make my water. And then I get a little bananas. I get some glitter out. That's Lawn Fawn's Chunky Glitter. I figure I want a little color in there, just a little. And of course I have my little starfish, and he kind of is the star of the show. You have to have some kind of a focal point. So I put everything in there, and of course there's about 3 layers of the border on there. And I'm just going to glue really close to the edge so we don't have any leakage, and place my acetate oval over the top and let her dry. And I just put a camera on there, and now I'm going to go ahead and put the top oval on to cover up the acetate edge. And the glue I use is awesome. It handles slick stuff just as well as anything. It's art glitter glue. I decided this was still too boring, even though I had placed it on the card base. So I decided to get out some twine and put a little border around it. You know, just little touches like this make a big difference. And it doesn't take much time, but I really feel that it gives the card some grounding, and it also helps offset the sand so it's not just the only brown thing on there. And then always at the end of twine you want to glue, because you don't want it, it'll start unraveling on you. And then I found a little shell in my button box. So I thought, well, that'll be a cute little embellishment. I'm not going to be able to send this just in a regular envelope anyway. I would definitely use a padded envelope. I let that dry, and then I used my art glitter glue and decided to stick it up there. I thought about where to place it, but I didn't want it at the bottom. I didn't want it in the center, you know, but I spared you that. And now I have finished the card, and our little guy starfish is just kind of flopping around, having fun, and that is our project. I can't believe this, but I do not have an alphabet of big bold letters, so that's going to be on my to-do list. So I gathered up what I could to do this method that Tim showed on his live, and I had forgotten about the KISS method. You use the lightest color of oxide that you want. I don't even have Christmas colors, so. And then you use a dark distress ink. So I'm just inking this up randomly. It doesn't really matter what spot it lands on. I just want to make sure it lands on something that's got a lot of movement in it. And then you just flip it over and stamp on your texture there, and look how it kind of shows through the block there. And I wanted to show you. And then I have a little dip in my table, and so it did not stamp perfectly, but it gives you the idea. Isn't that cool? I'm going to be doing that with different inks. Now I'm going to fix it by putting a little mask there, and then since that Y is so huge, it's pretty easy to line up. And it takes me a couple shots there, but here we go. And it's still not perfect, but it's pretty good. We'll just pretend it's done. Here's a background that I think would make a lovely winter scene with a snowman on it using glitter embossing powder. And then I just put different colors of ink on, and I sprayed one with water and one I didn't. And I did the same with this. This is the new Uncharted Mariner. It was just released a few weeks ago. One I added some water to. It was like a second generation. And so here's our final project again. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll like, subscribe, come back and see me, tell your friends, follow me on all the social media. Now here's your video. This guy is so smart. Look at him go. Just kind of creeping along like Mr. Alligator. You aren't gonna be disturbed here. I'll just walk correct. This was in the backyard of my dad's place in Florida. I just thought it was pretty funny. There were alligators everywhere. So that is the end of our video. Here are some more videos, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye.